It is now 4:35 p.m. and now is the for the Compton's. It is time for the Compton City Council workshop at 4:30 on unfunded accrued liability of the post-employment benefit taxes. Mr. City Manager, who will make be making this presentation?
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. The presenter is coming forward. And just as a reminder, this was a request from some time ago that we would do this workshop for the edification of the community to kind of have them understand the city's position in terms of our pension UAL. So with that,
Mr. City Manager, the mayor would like to do a roll call.
okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Councilmember Duhart?
Here.
Councilmember Spicer?
Here.
Councilmember Bowers?
Here.
Councilmember Darden?
Here.
Mayor Sharif? You
Here.
have quorum at 4:36 p.m.
You may continue.
Right.
You may continue.
Very good. Mayor and members of the City Council, my name is Dan Matuszewicz. I work for a firm that helps model how your unfunded liability behaves under different conditions. A staff proposal was brought to me to pay down some of your obligation that accrues at a rate of 6.8% per year. And we'll kind of go over I guess, the relationship in general. So you are a part of you're a member agency of CalPERS, which provides pension administration and investment services for it's probably about 1,500 different local agencies in California. And it's one of the largest public pension plans in the world. So you have a promise to pay a pension to employees, and that promise results in, obviously, an obligation at retirement. And that calculation uses a lot of assumptions, actuaries involved to determine how long people are going to work, what their pay raises are, when they're going to retire, when they're going to expire, et cetera. But there really isn't anything that moves the needle more than the money that's in the system that offsets that expected obligation to the employees. And so what's baked into the amount that you pay CalPERS is the presumption that you will earn 6.8%, or they will. And so when there is a shortfall, or perhaps an individual lives longer than expected, anytime one of their assumptions falls short of actual, an unfunded liability is created. And at that point, CalPERS then says, well, essentially you have undercontributed because our assumption didn't hold true. And so they send you a bill for that unfunded liability that accrues interest at 6.8% per year. Does that make sense? Are there any questions right there? So that unfunded liability is really the gap between what you should have in the bank to fulfill those promises and what's actually in there. And CalPERS makes that measurement each year and recalculates based on trends. Over time, cities have found that that unfunded liability has grown to an uncomfortable number. Sometimes that payment ends up expanding to be a significant part of the entity's budget. So managing how much is outstanding goes part and parcel with providing this benefit, is managing, making sure that that unfunded liability doesn't get out of control. It's kind of like a home equity line of credit, if you will. It's like it's okay to borrow against your house, but if you start living off of that home equity line of credit, then you could see how that becomes kind of problematic. So keeping it in check is important. Right now, you have 3 plans: a miscellaneous plan, fire, and police. In total, the unfunded component that CalPERS is sending you an extra bill for is $152 million. If you were to just make the mortgage payments, if you will, that $150 million would cost you $230 million by just making the annual payments each year. So what's being proposed by staff is that you pay off a significant portion of the miscellaneous unfunded liability. So we're looking at a unfunded liability of $75 million, and that it's consistent with what the audit recommendation was from the California auditors, is to pay off some of that pension liability, put it in trust. CalPERS is a pension trust. They also made a recommendation you could pay off some of your liability on your health retirement plan. But you can see that, oh gosh, I can't read those numbers. But you can, it really goes back to that same graph. You can either choose to pay $75 million now, or pay that larger amount, which represents the interest on that unfunded liability. So it's a choice: pay now, pay more now, or pay more later. So it's discretionary, and so the council, the staff had recommended perhaps paying 90% of the miscellaneous plan's unfunded liability. So when we look at that balance if it were 100%, by the beginning of next fiscal year is $75.6 million. And if you waited to June 30th to pay that off, that would grow to, just by making your mortgage payment between those 2 dates, 6/30/24 and 26, that balance has come down to $75 million. If you paid 90% of that, that would represent about $68 million a year. If you paid it slightly ahead of time, before it's due, then that payment comes down to that $65 million. So I use, for sake of discussion, 12/31/25, and that's $68 million. In order to pay that off or pay that down, that would roughly equivalent to about a $65 million payment. And that interest savings would be about $42.7 million. And ultimately, there is a concurrent, the city has a pension tax and a levy where the unfunded liability is one component of that levy. By paying $65 million, you would reduce the required payment to PERS by $7.2 million. as I understand it, your levy last year was about $35 million. By reducing it, $7.2 million would represent a 20% reduction, potential reduction to the levy. And that is what staff is proposing. Do you have any questions for me about the mechanics of how this would work, or the numbers?
Are there any questions from the council?
I have a question. Have you talked to the the city treasurer about how much money is in this account?
My understanding from staff, but not the city treasurer, is there's in excess of 100 million in that fund.
I have a question as it relates to, well, obviously if we pay this cost now, we're going to save significant savings here. But how else would this benefit the residents of Compton? In what other ways?
Well, there's two that I can think of. In the long run, well, in the immediate term, the city would be able to reduce the levy, the pension tax levy. And typically, we like to see agencies pre-fund their obligation as it's accrued. So as employees work a year of service, they accrue an additional year of service credit, and that has an obligation. And if you pay that when they're age concurrently with the service, that the investment earnings offset the cost of that benefit 50 to 60% over time. So rather than holding on to the funds where, you know, by your government code sections really restrict, government code sections 53601 allows the city to only invest in very short-term instruments. You're not going to get anywhere near 6.8%. So holding on to the money is something that you would look at if you needed the liquidity. But ultimately, that difference between what if you're holding it and earning maybe 3%, and it's accruing interest at 6.8%, then on a long-term basis, you're accruing a lot more interest. So that 7 point, maybe I'm not answering that question efficiently, but I guess another way to look at it is that 7.2 million that would otherwise go to CalPERS in payment could be redeployed to some other community benefit, whether that is whatever that is, whether that's paying additional wages to employees, whether it's another project. That would be up to the council to decide how that 7.2 is deployed each year.
I guess my question is, and thank you for that, I do appreciate that, but my question is, would it reduce the property taxes that our residents are paying?
So that would depend on staff taking action. So the portion of the property taxes that represent the pension levy should be reduced by that $7.2 million.
Should be reduced.
Well, so making the payment to PERS will reduce your payment. Step two is when you prepare the levy in July would be to reduce that levy in lockstep with that reduction in obligation.
Okay. That's my question. Thank you.
Dan, if I may, Madam Mayor and Council, when we initially embarked upon this, looking at that number, our calculations at the time was on average, the average citizen should see approximately a $200 reduction is what we had calculated at that time on their pension tax on their tax bill. And that would reset and then gradually work back up based on that calculation.
So that,
So you'll get a reduction, but then actually, it's not a permanent reduction, it's gonna go back up over a period of years.
It could possibly go back up over a period of years. Remember, the city is assessed every year, depending on what happens to the assessment. Just as this year, we do a recalculation, but it would yield relief to the ratepayers over a period of time.
My question is this, is that there's very few cities that have this, this type of tax. I think it's about 13 cities that may have it. It seems that at times that the misunderstanding in regards to this tax and how it worked and everything. I know that we've been told that to put it in some type of fund and everything, but I'm just trying to figure out how familiar are you with this tax?
To your point, there's only a few cities in California that have a pension tax. In lieu of that, what many cities do, because this, because the obligation and the assets in CalPERS are subject to the volatility in the market, a lot of cities will take their general fund revenues and set money aside in a similar trust that's obligated, that's restricted only for paying down pension liability. Palo Alto is one that I could say has a balance of in excess of $100 million in this side trust as you have. It's not collected through a pension tax, but it was through kind of forced fiscal discipline. They said, we know there's going to be market volatility. Sometimes that market's going to be up, sometimes it's going to be down. So we're going to collect. We're going to collect more than we need to, or set aside more than we need to for those times when it fluctuates. And so I'm working with them as well in now deploying that $110 million to pay down their unfunded liability in a similar manner.
So although they don't have the tax, but they're doing something very similar to what we're discussing this evening.
Correct.
Are there any other cities that's with this pension levy tax that you're working with?
No, well, so the only other similar form would be a pension obligation bond where they actually borrowed money from the markets.
Okay.
And in those circumstances, it's not optional or discretionary to pay off the unfunded liability. You're required to. So if you issue a pension obligation bond, you have to pay down the unfunded liability. So that I would say is probably the most common for folks that have something that's akin to a tax. But there are I want to say, many hundreds of cities in California that have a pension trust outside of CalPERS, which I think is very important to handle that volatility. And as part of my recommendation would be to retain some of that money for future volatility, because we could pay that money down today, and we know markets fluctuate, so it could come up for a while, and then there's usually markets rebound and that obligation comes back down. But during that time where it goes up, it could cause some budget stress on the city, and what you don't want to be in a position to do is to cut service to your constituents. So having some liquidity is another part of the equation, not just how much can I save, but having some liquidity on hand so that you can handle the market volatility, which is really out of your control.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for city manager on this one. Have we verified that we do have $100 million in the bank to spend on this pension tax?
Mayor and Council, when we embarked upon this many, many months ago, we were looking at a balance that was sufficient, and actually we're checking right now to get a rough estimate of what our balance is. So I should have that answer in just a few moments.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the council? Madam Councilwoman Darden?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, just one quick question. Are we collecting enough money on the property taxes to pay our annual obligations?
Mayor and Council, last time I saw our payment receipt, the answer to that question is yes. To pay our annual obligation as well as the UAL as well. The way the bill is done, there's your annual obligation and the UAL for each of the categories as you were shown in the presentation. And so last year, we did pay over $7 million in UAL for miscellaneous. I don't remember the numbers for the other categories because that's something that's normally handled by the controller's office, but I recall seeing it when we did the check for it.
Oh, okay. So that was, that includes fire and
That includes
police.
fire and police, yes. It's actually, I believe, four categories. I'm
So-
pretty sure it's 4 categories.
If I could jump in, I do have the numbers. So for the 3 funds, it's about the UAL component, the unfunded is, your next year's payment would be about $17 million. So it's a significant portion of your overall pension obligation. And there are 3, so there's the cost, there's the UAL, which is the portion that's on, I guess, let me back up. So if all assumptions were magically met, the actuaries were right on, that your only component would be the normal cost or the cost of your annual service credit. So that is one component. The second is the self-correcting component, the unfunded liability component, that CalPERS sends you a supplemental bill saying, sorry, we missed some of our assumptions, so here's the unfunded liability component. The third component of the pension levy, as I understand, is the healthcare benefit component. Those 3 together, my understanding, leads to a levy that's approximately $35 million. And this action would reduce that levy obligation by about $7.2 million, or about 20%.
Okay, I understand from what you had said earlier about if we put it in a trust, or the interest we earn, you had you made a statement about 3%, but however, we are paying 7.8%.
6.8, yep.
6.8, okay. I do, well, you know, I count money real well, so that is a difference there. So, but I want to make the wisest choice, decision based on the city and the citizens of Compton. So, and I did read in one of the reports where we could make additional payments, you know, throughout the year.
Correct.
And I don't think there was any limitation. So a thought came to me, if the money that we earn off the interest, why wouldn't we make those payments as well?
You absolutely
Additional.
can.
All right, well, that's what, you know, came to mind, so.
Yeah, given that these are such long-term obligations, you think about the employee's employment. If it was a brand new employee, they may work 30 years, another 30 years in 20, 30 years in retirement. That's a 50, 60-year horizon. And if you made that contribution into a trust, over a 50, 60, or even a 30-year period, it is a lot of money that, as I said, your expected investment earnings or trust investment earnings would offset that benefit by the cost of that benefit by 50 to 60%.
And we also no longer have our Compton Police Department, but there are retirees. I wondered how many retirees are still under the, do you have that information?
I could send that to you tomorrow. It is a lofty report, and I don't that component I did not look how many remaining. But there are probably, I want to say, 9 payments left on that. 9 years worth of payment, and that's another one that if you wanted to pay off, since with any mortgage obligation, the shorter it is, you pay so much more interest when it's 30 years. But when you're down to the final 10, a lot of that is principal. And by paying that one off would reduce your payment. Since you're paying off so much principal, your payment would come down significantly as well on that obligation, which is, if I recall, let's see, it was about 4.7 million.
All right.
If you paid that off. And it would take about $25 million to pay off the remaining obligation on the police.
Yeah, so I do understand what you're saying. Like a mortgage, for instance, if you make, because in the past I've done that myself, and I would make a payment and say for principal only. So
Correct.
that reduced the amount of the loan at that time. So I understand what your analogy there.
Yeah, and slightly different than a mortgage. So when you make an extra payment on a mortgage, they reduce the term. CalPERS actually reduces your payment. So you get the benefit of a reduced payment right away.
All right, thank you so much.
Could you go back to slide 8?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Just trying to be clear. So the payment at December 31st, 2025, that $73 million is a payment, correct?
That would, if you paid 100% of the liability.
And then explain at $65 million?
So that is just 90% of that.
Okay, and drop down to the $47 million.
So if the 73 and the 65 represent the principal principal that you would be paying off, and if the line above shows the total amount that would be required, it would be the sum of the mortgage payments, then the difference is interest that you would otherwise be paying to CalPERS. So it's really the 47 and the 42 million is just the difference between the sum of the mortgage payments being 120 or 108 minus the 73 or the 65 in principal that you'd be paying off.
I got it. I see it.
Are there any other questions? No? Okay.
You're gonna
As
open
soon
it?
as soon as he finish. Okay. Thank you for the presentation. I just made a statement. I told her just wait a minute because he's gonna be here. I'm just asking him to, right now, he can have a seat. Now, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Please, just line up.
Okay, for one thing, our treasurer should have been here because he has been investing money and the money has grown. So I'm quite sure he's going to continue to invest so we could have more money. So the money he has invested, maybe it could go on here. Each time he invests, we could pay it down. So the citizens of Compton, when they get their taxes, that could go down also. So I don't know why he's not here at a meeting like this when it comes to money, because he is the treasurer. Maybe that's something you guys can come together on and speak to him about investing the money that has grown on his part to put into the taxes. Okay, so the citizens of Compton money could go down. Okay?
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council.
Madam Mayor, you should ask each speaker to state their name for the record.
Thank you. Charles Davis,
Hi,
because we don't have any sign-up sheets.
Charles Davis. And I was a city clerk here for 30-some years, 30-plus years. I just looked at the proposed budget for 25, 26. You look in fund account 2100. It shows total expenses for PERS, $26,036,111. Estimated revenue, $42,364,546. Net increase, $13,383 and change. You know, I've been fighting this for 3 years now and reducing the tax. This is a unique thing that the city manager is presenting to you now. There's 3 elements to this retirement fund. You got the unfunded liability, you got the retirees and employees payments, including the police, and then you got medical. And medical, our school district just went up 21%. You need to have something in reserve for that. Year over year, your excess has been between $12 and $15 million. You're collecting that much more than what you're having to put out. And PERS tells you I did a public records request to the city and to PERS. I got a list of every retiree from PERS. PERS sends a bill to the city 2 years in advance. Madam Mayor and City Council, I beg you, do not approve this resolution. Have another workshop, but take into consideration all the components, all the variables. Even the one where the city managers, where this gentleman said you could pay off the police department early. Well, how will that affect? And then you would be able to reduce the amount of the assessment to the citizens. Our assessments have, well, you all live here. You know how the values have gone up. I just beg you not to take any action today. Have another workshop. I'd even volunteer my time. I helped put some of this together back in the day. The citizens can win, the city can win. But you need to go a lot deeper than just this. He's only talking about one element, you got 3. Thank you very much.
I would like to ask the consultant one question. Sure. Would you like to wait until everybody speak before you respond to them? How would you like to do this?
However the mayor wishes.
Okay. Then we'll let everybody speak and then you can respond. Okay?
Hello, everybody. Mayor, council, city manager, clerk. Jacqueline Venters. I was kind of late, but this has been a question for a long time. As a resident and retired, but never worked for the city, I don't understand why the city residents are required to pay for into an employee's pension, and they have never been employed for the city of Compton. Retired, the money that I'm paying for somebody else's pension, that's my money. And I don't see that it's fair. I know they said that this goes all the way back to 1947, but hopefully, you know, our new council maybe could consider going back and revising that, because I think the employees should be paying into their own pension with the city of Compton help, not the residents.
Are there anyone else?
I have a comment. Satra Zarita, resident of the city of Compton. I never get the opportunity to speak to you all at one time, but I often hear from residents on a daily basis. And while you figure out the pension payments and how to reduce mortgages and property tax, I would ask that you also look into taking the trash bill off of the property tax and let the trash company who is in the business of collecting trash payments do their own collections, so that way elderly people in this community, who some only pay $600 every 6 months for property tax, and they've paid that for decades. And when the trash was put on the bill, it created a substantial hardship for a lot of the seniors in this community and young people as well. So while I know we are talking about the pension tax, I think the spirit hit me and asked me to come and talk about the rubbish bill. Thank you.
Missy, City of Compton. Thank you, Ms. Zarita, because that was one of my questions about the trash bill. As I did an analyzation last week, looking over the property taxes from last year versus this year, our trash bill was on there. It did increase. It did increase. So with that being said, yes, if that should be removed. It should never been put on there in the first place. So yes, I agree. That need to come off. And hopefully we can find some money to allocate to bring down the pension. Because me, as a county employee, worked for the LA County Sheriff Department, I had to pay into my own retirement. And they only match up to a certain amount. But if I put in 10 or 15%, they only put in whatever they're going to put in. So this is the first time me ever hearing we as residents has to pay for someone else's pension. They need to pay for their own pension or figure out another way by outside outside insurance to cover that, like I did, as extra layer, so when I retire. So yes, that needs to be considered, take that off. Thank you.
Would you like to respond? Sir, thank you.
So while I have really nothing to do with the special tax, I think generally, having spent 30 years working in local government, sometimes the revenues that are generated from general taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, and transient occupancy taxes may or may not cover the community's needs. And so that's where sometimes these special taxes arise, is to say, well, the collective sum of all of our revenues, we can't serve the residents the way we would like to. And I think that's what residents ought to consider themselves and the council to say, do our revenues in aggregate, are they sufficient to supply the services to this, that residents want? That's number one. In terms of additional analysis, I think as Council Member Darden pointed out, this isn't your only bite at the apple. You can make additional discretionary payments every year. And so that, I've always looked at managing my pension liability for the community that I served, not as a one-shot deal, that this was something that was looked at every year to see, how do we best deploy any excess resources? And this pension tax can only be used for providing the pension benefit. So if I lived in the city, I would be in favor of putting that money to work in a pension trust in order to bring down the total cost of that promised benefit. Were there other questions that you would like me to answer or speak to? I can't really speak to the trash issue.
Okay, thank you. Oh, excuse me. If you need, we're talking about the pension.
Yeah, I heard.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure.
Mark Smith, so much with the pension, and I know it's been a tax over the years, but regarding what Missy has said and our city clerk regarding bundling that with the trash company, he can't speak to it, but there is really no method when a service is not delivered. And that happens far too many times, and we're being taxed on that. So a service is not provided to us, however, we're being taxed on it. And that was one of my concerns, and however it relates to the pension fund. Or it coming out, it being separated in some way, so we can clearly see. I actually forget why we decided to bundle our taxes with the trash company. I believe it was water and trash. But my point, which I've experienced a number of times since this has happened, the service is not delivered and we pay on a rate, nothing is being prorated back to us, so it's money lost to the citizens. That was my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Since there isn't any other audience comments, like, you, Councilman
Madam Mayor.
Bowers?
Sorry, go ahead.
Councilman Bowers?
This question for you, Mr. Hopkins. Have we started reformation of our pension? So when we hire new employees now, will their pension, will they pay more into the
It
pension
depends on
funds?
the employee. For example, I am a Pepper employee. I pay for my pension. I pay a portion. If I was a Classic employee, I wouldn't pay anything. And again, we covered this many, many months ago in a meeting. The law changed, I want to tell you, it was around 2012 or 2013 was when pension reform was done. And so people that came into the system after 2012 have a requirement to make a contribution toward their pension. Those that were in prior to that, they don't. Mm-hmm. So I think that answers, your question is, again, the critical point is whether they're a Pepper employee or a Classic employee determines what the contribution is.
Yeah, I too retired from Los Angeles County, and they have multiple pension plans. They start out with A. They eliminated that. That was the best one. That doesn't exist anymore. They're down to something like G or F or whatever, which is significantly different. And also with respect to the trash, I wasn't in favor of that. And I think it should be pulled from Liberty and Republic and let them collect their own money.
Councilwoman Jordan?
Yes, Mr. City Manager, one of the speakers mentioned that there were non-employees who is receiving retirement benefits. So I would like you to investigate that to make sure and check the roster to make sure everybody that is receiving retirement is a former employee of the city.
Thank you. Councilwoman, thank you for that, because I was wondering how that could be happening if they never worked for the city. Thank you. Okay. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting, the workshop.
So,
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Duhart,
Yes.
Councilmember Spicer,
Yes.
Councilmember Bowers,
yes.
Councilmember Darton,
Yes?
Mayor Sharif.
Yes.
You adjourn at 5:20 p.m.
So we have 5 minutes before the regular city council meeting start. 10 minutes. Oh, 10 minutes. Oh, okay. We